Warren voice script, TXT, CAC the TXE. Toxicity, toxicity, building, not sudden, not accidental, building, like something patient, like something planned. Let me back up. After 23 years of marriage, you develop a sixth sense about the person you share your life with. You feel when something is off before you can name it, like a smell in the air that doesn't belong. That Tuesday, I felt it the moment I turned onto our street. I wasn't supposed to be home. My conference in Denver had wrapped a full day early. No calls made, no texts sent. I was going to surprise Cassandra, pick up her favorite Thai food, actually sit across from my wife at dinner for once without a laptop between us. I was feeling good. I should have known better. My son Preston's car was in the driveway. Preston is 26, married, has his own apartment across town, an apartment I helped furnish. Preston doesn't do pop-ins. Preston barely does scheduled visits. I sat in my car and said out loud to nobody, "Warren, why is your son's car in your driveway on a Tuesday afternoon?" I had no answer, so I grabbed my bag and walked to the front door. The silence hit me before anything else. Not peaceful silence, not relaxing silence. The thick, heavy, wrong kind, the kind that has weight. Preston and Lindsay were sitting on the couch in the living room, not watching TV, not on their phones, just sitting, like two people in a waiting room who had already accepted whatever news was coming. Preston looked up, and here's the detail that changed everything for me. He wasn't surprised to see me. Your father, who was supposed to be in Denver, walks through the front door a full day early, and you don't even flinch. No wide eyes, no "what are you doing here?" Just a slow blink and a look I can only describe as calculated. Lindsay smiled. And I'm telling you, that smile had no business being on anyone's face that afternoon. Mom had an episode, Preston said. She's at Mercy General. Stable. I didn't hear anything after Mercy General. I was back in my car in 11 seconds. The ER doctor, Dr. Beverly Nash, was composed, mid-50s. The kind of woman who delivers hard news with steady eyes and a voice that doesn't wobble. I needed steady right then. "Mr. Trevor," she said, "your wife presented with severe disorientation, organ stress, and elevated toxicity markers in her blood work. The pattern we're seeing isn't consistent with a sudden illness. It suggests something that has been building. I gripped the edge of the nurse's station and said very carefully, "Dr. Nash, are you telling me that something is being done to my wife?" She held my gaze. "I'm telling you that we need more answers. And I think you do too." I went in to see Cassandra. I have seen my wife in every state imaginable. Furious, radiant, heartbroken. I was not prepared for what I saw in that room. She looked hollowed out, like someone had slowly, quietly drained everything that made her Cassandra. I sat beside her, took her hand, and made her a promise. I don't make promises lightly. I told her I'm here, and I'm not leaving until I know exactly what happened to you. I walked back out to the waiting room. Preston and Lindsay had arrived. Preston stood up. "Dad, we should talk." "There's a lot you don't." I held up one hand. "Just one." And something in my face communicated exactly where we stood because he stopped mid-sentence. "Not yet," I said. Then I walked to the corner of that waiting room, pulled out my phone, and started locking every single account they had access to. Every single one. When the notifications hit their phones, I watched Lindsay's face first. That smile she'd been carrying all afternoon evaporated just like that. Now we were having a conversation. I called my best friend Kurt from the hospital parking lot at 9:43 at night, my wife on machines 30 feet above me, my son's eyes burned into my memory. Kurt has known me since 1987. He will tell me the truth without wrapping it in anything soft. "The doctor used the word toxicity," I said. "Said it's been building. Not sudden, gradual." And Preston and Lindsay were in. The house? They're in the waiting room right now. Silence. Then Kurt said something I will never forget as long as I live. Warren, you need to think very carefully about who had access to Cassandra's food, her drinks, her medications, every day. Over the last few months, who was around. And that's when it hit me. 4 months ago, Cassandra had twisted her ankle on the stairs. Nothing serious. But Preston had swooped in almost immediately and suggested that Lindsay, who had a flexible schedule, could come by every morning to help Cassandra with breakfast and her medications while I was at work. At the time, I thought it was generous. I actually told Kurt, maybe I misjudged that boy. I want to go back in time and slap myself. I went back inside. Preston was by the vending machine, arms crossed, wearing the expression of a man trying very hard to look innocent and failing at a graduate level. Lindsay was seated, phone face down on her lap. Lindsay is never without her phone. I once watched her scroll through it during a Thanksgiving prayer. A face down phone meant she was either expecting a call she didn't want me to see, or she'd already received one. I sat down directly across from them. Preston said, "Dad, I know how this looks." I said, "Do you, Preston? Walk me through exactly how you think this looks, because I am genuinely curious." "Mom has been having health issues," he said. "We were trying to help. Lindsay was coming by every morning making sure she ate. Took her vitamins. Her vitamins," I repeated. "Which vitamins? Which ones was Lindsay giving her?" He looked at Lindsay. Lindsay looked at her lap. That 3-second exchange told me everything I needed to know. Okay. Went back to the waiting room with a cup of terrible hospital coffee and pulled up every bank statement from the last 6 months. I am a 54-year-old man who still finds online banking mildly suspicious. But even I could see that something was wrong. Withdrawals, small ones at first, 200 here, 350 there, the kind of amounts that don't scream at you, they whisper. But when I added them up, we were looking at close to $11,000 over 5 months. From a joint account that Preston had limited access to for emergencies. $11,000. I called Kurt at 2 in the morning. He answered like it was noon. "That's not impulsive," Kurt said. "That's planned. That's someone who sat down and thought about how to do this without getting caught." "My son," I said, and those 2 words nearly broke me right there in that waiting room. "My son sat down and planned this. We don't know that for certain yet," Kurt said carefully. "Kurt," I said, "I know. The next morning, Dr. Nash found me exactly where she'd left me. She sat down beside me, which doctors don't typically do, and I noticed. She said, 'Mr. Trevor, the full panel came back.' 'Tell me straight,' I said. 'Your wife has elevated levels of a compound consistent with long-term ingestion of a specific heavy metal. Consistent exposure over a period of months. Her kidneys are under significant stress. We've started treatment. We caught this. She has a strong chance of recovery.'" I closed my eyes for just a second. Then I said, "Dr. Nash, if someone were doing this deliberately, how would they administer it?" She paused, and very carefully she said, "It could be introduced through food, through drink, through supplements, particularly powder-based ones that dissolve easily and have no distinct taste." I heard Preston's voice in my head. Lindsay was coming by every morning, making sure she ate, took her vitamins. I stood up so fast, my chair scraped the floor. I called my attorney first, then I called the bank and had every remaining account locked, restructured, and password protected. Within 20 minutes, my phone started ringing. Preston 4 times, Lindsay twice, then a text from Preston. "Dad, what did you do? Why can't I access anything? Call me back right now. Right now." Caps and everything. I stared at that message for a long time. This was a young man who at Christmas had hugged me at the door and told me I was the best father he could have asked for. I had believed him. I had beamed with pride over that. I typed back 1 sentence. "You should have thought about that before you touched my wife." Then Kurt called at 7:14 the next morning. He didn't say hello. He just said, "Warren, you need to brace yourself." 6 weeks before Cassandra ended up in that ICU, she had quietly visited an estate attorney and updated her life insurance policy. The original policy had Preston listed as secondary beneficiary, something we'd set up years ago. Cassandra had gone in to remove him entirely and redirect everything to a charitable literacy foundation she'd been quietly building for 2 years. Something she'd never told me about because she wanted to present it as a fully functioning thing first. That was Cassandra. Never half measures. The policy was worth $2.3 million. Preston had found out, and instead of picking up a phone and having a conversation like a grown man, he and Lindsay had sat down and decided that the most reasonable response was to make sure Cassandra didn't live long enough to finalize the paperwork. The attorney had a 30-day processing window. Cassandra had 30 days left when she collapsed. 30 days. That was the timeline they were working to. I sat with that information for a long time. Then I stood up, straightened my jacket, walked to the window, and made a decision. I was not going to be loud about this. I was not going to be sloppy. I was going to be methodical. I called my attorney, Margaret Holloway, 30 years practicing law, the energy of someone who genuinely enjoys watching people face consequences. I told her everything. The withdrawals, the supplements, the insurance policy, the timing, all of it. She was quiet for exactly 4 seconds. Then she said, "Warren, don't touch anything in that house. Don't confront either of them. Don't post anything, say anything, or hint at anything." "Can you do that?" "I can do that," I said, "Good. Because I'm going to make sure that when this lands, it lands completely. No cracks, no exits." I said, "Margaret, I want them to feel every single inch of this." She said, "Honey, by the time I'm done, they'll feel the square footage." On day 2, Cassandra opened. Her eyes looked at me and said in the most exhausted version of her voice, "Warren, you look terrible." And I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in the ICU because hearing Cassandra's specific brand of loving, devastating sarcasm, which I had taken completely for granted for 23 years, felt like someone had reached into my chest and restarted something. "You're in the ICU and you're critiquing my appearance?" I said. "Someone has to," she said. On day 4, Margaret called with news that rearranged my entire face. Kurt had quietly obtained surveillance footage from a pharmacy 2 towns over. Preston had purchased a specific supplement brand on 3 separate occasions over 4 months. Always cash, always alone. Except once, when an exterior camera caught Lindsay waiting in the car. The supplement contained trace amounts of a compound that in large enough doses, administered consistently over time, produced exactly the toxicity profile Dr. Nash had found in Cassandra's blood work. Margaret also had the bank records, the digital trail, the estate attorney confirming the timeline. And then there was this. Preston, in what I can only describe as a breathtaking act of audacity, had actually called the estate attorney's office, posing as Cassandra's personal assistant, to ask about the status of the policy changes. And he had left his own cell phone number as the callback. His own cell phone number. When Kurt told me, I stared at the wall for 10 full seconds and then said, "Kurt, did I raise a criminal mastermind or a complete idiot?" Kurt said, "Brother, somehow." The answer is both. They came to the hospital on day 5 carrying flowers. Preston walked in, saw me in the corridor, and deployed a smile that didn't reach his eyes by approximately 40 feet. He said, "Dad, how is she? We've been so worried." I looked at him, then at Lindsay, then back at him. She's awake, she's talking, and she's going to make a full recovery. I watched something flicker behind his eyes. Not relief, not joy, a very fast recalculation, the kind a person makes when a plan has failed and they need to figure out what comes next. "The police are on their way," I said. Just like that. Flat calm. The same tone I might use to mention that it was supposed to rain on Friday. Preston's face drained of color so fast, it was almost medically impressive. Margaret Holloway filed everything that morning. The pharmacy receipts, the bank records, the phone call to the estate attorney, Dr. Nash's toxicology report, all of it. Every piece in a very neat package. Preston said, "Dad, just listen for 1 second. There is nothing you can say to me right now. There is not a sentence in the English language that covers this. So I need you to stop talking. The flowers are nice stuff. Cassandra will appreciate them. From someone else, they were arrested in the hospital parking lot. Margaret had timed it with the precision of a woman who understood that optics matter. They were still holding the flowers when the officers approached. Kurt appeared beside me at the window. I don't know when he arrived. He just materialized the way he always does. When things matter most, we watched together. He said, "How do you feel?" I thought about it honestly. Like I aged 10 years in 5 days. Like I want to sleep for a month. Like I am simultaneously the saddest I have ever been and the most certain I have ever felt about anything in my life. And Cassandra, he said, I looked back down the corridor toward her room. Through the small window in her door, I could see the shape of her in the bed, the monitors, the soft light. Cassandra is going to be fine, I said. Cassandra was always going to be fine. She's the toughest person I know, and she married me, which proves she can survive anything. Kurt laughed, a real one. And for just a moment, the weight lifted. 3 months later, Cassandra came home on a Saturday morning in October when the light was doing that golden thing it does in fall. She stood in the hallway and looked around like she was cataloging everything she had almost lost. Then she turned to me and said, "Warren, the kitchen needs repainted." I said, "Absolutely not. I just painted it 2 years ago. It's the wrong shade of white. There is only one shade of white." Cassandra. She pointed at the wall with the authority of a woman who would stare down death and won. "That," she said, "is not white. That is the color of a bureaucratic apology." I looked at the wall. I looked at her. I pulled out my phone and called a painter. Preston and Lindsay faced charges of attempted murder, conspiracy, and financial fraud. Margaret prosecuted with the energy of someone who had been waiting her entire career for a case this clean. The trial lasted 11 days. The jury took 4 hours. When the verdict was read, I was sitting next to Cassandra, who was holding my hand with a grip that could have been steel. When it was over, she leaned over and said very quietly, "I want Thai food, right now." I said, "I have been thinking about Thai food for 3 months. Warren, do not test me." So we got Thai food. Kurt came, Margaret came, Dr. Beverly Nash, who Cassandra had apparently charmed completely during her recovery, came. We sat around a table, and we ate, and we laughed, and I watched my wife gesture wildly while telling the story, and I thought, there she is. There's Cassandra. I said at the beginning that I came home early and wished to God the house had been empty. I take that back. I am glad I came home. I am glad I walked through that door. I am glad I saw what I saw and moved the way I moved. Because if I had landed 1 day later, if that conference had run its full schedule, if I had stayed in Denver 1 more night, Cassandra wouldn't have made it. And I would have spent the rest of my life not knowing why. So no, I don't wish the house had been empty. I wish my son had been the man I thought I raised. But you can't control what people choose to become in the dark. You can only control what you do when the lights come on. I came home, I turned the lights on, and I made sure that every single person in that house faced exactly what they had done. That's their job. That's always been the job. If you liked this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more. And as always, thank you for being here.